There are so many gardening tips out there that it can get overwhelming, especially for beginners. Fortunately, many of these tips can simply be ignored without any downside. I started my Gardening Tips You Can Ignore series to help you identify products that you don't have to buy and gardening practices that you don't have to implement. In the process, I hope to save you time and money and help you focus on what really works. Today I'll talk about 2 more gardening tips that I think you can ignore. I know I do. The first tip you can ignore is to use milk as a fertilizer. There's some evidence that milk sprays help curb powdery mildew, but that's not what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about using it specifically as a fertilizer. Now, it is true that milk contains calcium, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And if you pour milk on your compost pile, microbes will break down the nutrients into a form that is available to plants. But this is true of all organic matter, and there's nothing special about milk in this regard. And like other forms of organic matter, I might put a little bit of spoiled milk on my compost pile, but I never buy milk to use in my garden. One of the special claims made about milk as a fertilizer is that it cures blossom end rot. Yes, milk does contain calcium, but it doesn't have a unique ability to cure blossom end rot. Blossom end rot occurs when there's a deficiency of calcium in the fruit of plants like tomatoes and peppers. But this usually occurs because the plant is having difficulty moving calcium to the fruit, not because there's an actual calcium deficiency in the soil. It's not fully understood why this happens, but it's related to watering. Both too much water and too little water lead to blossom end rot. Watering regularly and using mulch to maintain consistent moisture levels help reduce blossom end rot. Most soils are not deficient in calcium, and compost made from a variety of inputs will help ensure sufficient calcium levels in most gardens. There's also no scientific evidence supporting the idea that there's something special about using milk as a fertilizer. In fact, the limited studies that have been done have shown it to be not worth the expense or the effort. Finally, milk is a very expensive fertilizer. I prefer to use my free homemade compost, but even commercial fertilizers are much cheaper because they provide a lot more nutrient value per dollar. For example, garden mythbuster Robert Pavlis analyzed the cost of using milk as a nitrogen fertilizer and found that it's 100 times more expensive than manure. He focused on nitrogen because it's the nutrient that's most often lacking in gardens. Calcium usually isn't. So if I had a small amount of milk that was spoiling, I might add it to my compost pile like I would any other organic matter, but I would never buy milk to use as a fertilizer. The second tip to ignore is really more than just a tip. It's a whole form of alternative agriculture called biodynamic agriculture, which originated in 1924 from a series of 8 lectures presented by occultist philosopher Rudolf Steiner. Biodynamic agriculture played an important role in the development of organic farming, and at their core they share some basic practices, such as the use of compost, mulch, cover crops, crop diversification, crop rotation, and animal manures. But in addition to these methods, which are well supported by science, biodynamic agriculture includes a number of highly questionable esoteric practices that supposedly harvest cosmic forces in the soil. To give you an idea of what I'm talking about, let's look at 2 biodynamic preparations. Preparation 500 involves packing a cow horn with cow manure and is described by one biodynamic expert as follows. A hollowed cow's horn is filled with fresh cow manure and buried in the soil for the winter. The following spring, the manure is removed from the horn and dynamically stirred with water for 1 hour and sprayed over fields. Horn manure improves overall soil health and fertility by stimulating soil's microorganisms and beneficial bacteria growth, and promoting root activity and seed germination. So why are cow horns used in this and other biodynamic preparations? Rudolf Steiner believed that cow horns, because of their shape, act as antennae to receive cosmic forces and transfer those cosmic forces to the contents of the cow horn. And when the manure spray is sprayed on the crops, he believed that those cosmic forces were transferred to the crops and then to the people who ate them. And according to the source I just quoted, only 1 ounce of cow manure dissolved in sufficient water is enough to treat an entire acre of crops. To say that such a tiny amount of cow manure has a significant impact on an acre of crops is a stretch, to say the least. Is it the cosmic forces that are supposedly providing this benefit? I'm personally not buying it. Let's look at one more example. A number of biodynamic compost preparations involve stuffing plant material into the skulls or organs of animals, where the material is aged and later retrieved and applied to compost. Again, according to the expert I quoted earlier, preparation 502 involves the following. Yarrow flowers are harvested at peak bloom, dried, and sewn into a deer's bladder. The bladder is hung for the summer with direct exposure to the sun. In fall, the bladder is buried in the soil for the winter. The following spring, the yarrow is removed from the bladder and immediately inserted into the compost pile. Biodynamic proponents believe that this practice increases plant uptake of sulfur and potassium, resulting in increased plant growth and health. And once again, Steiner believed that this method imparted cosmic forces to the crops and the people who ate them. Though I might add yarrow flowers to my compost if I had them, is anything really gained by stuffing them into a deer's bladder, hanging the bladder in the sun for months, burying it and then digging it up? I really don't think so. And the available scientific research on these preparations supports my skepticism. According to a scientific literature review from Dr. Linda Chalker-Scott, when added to organically grown crops, biodynamic preparations have been uniformly ineffective. Compared with organically managed systems, additions of biodynamic preparations do not affect yields of cover crops, forage grasses, lentils, rice, and more. For more information on the available research, please see a link to this literature review in the description. So my advice is to simply ignore all of the biodynamic preparations. I also recommend not spending extra money on biodynamic compost. One of the reasons it's so much more expensive is you actually have to pay someone to stuff a deer's bladder with yarrow, hang it out in the sun, bury it, dig it up, and so on. And this is just one of the required preparations for compost that involves stuffing plants into animal parts. I hope this video saved you time and money by steering you clear from biodynamic preparations and using milk as a fertilizer. If you'd like to learn more about why I think you can ignore these tips, please see the link in the description below. And for more tips that I think you can ignore, please see this link. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe for more videos on how to grow a lot of food on a little land without spending much or working harder than you have to.